All right, good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call to order this PVUS meeting for February 8th, 2024, and in honor of the Lillooet Pool, I'd like to acknowledge that this meeting is being held on the traditional and unceded territories of the Lillooet Nation. Any amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, move as presented. Director Mack, seconded by Director Kennett. Opposed, motion carries. We don't have a closed and no advisory reports. So we're going to go right into our delegations. And we're going to start off with Ms. Emma Gillis, Library Director from the Pemberton District Library. Afternoon, Emma.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you again. Got a brief presentation for you today, and I've got some handouts as well with a summary of our year for you just to take home. You have the first slide, please. Thanks. So 2023 marked the start of our new strategic plan. Using data collected from our community feedback survey, the board, staff, and other stakeholders attended a full-day session in May. The previous strategic plan had been created before the start of the pandemic, so this was a really great opportunity for us to review the successes and challenges of the previous 3 years. Our 4 strategic areas remained largely unchanged, but the goals and strategies that we've outlined have adapted just to meet the changing needs of the growing community. As this report will demonstrate, 2023 was another successful year of growth for the library across the 4 strategic areas. Next slide. So with strategic area number 1, we seek to inspire minds through learning and literacy. New and continued partnerships played a key role in our programming successes of 2023. And as this slide highlights, some of those key partners whose continued support has enabled us to provide access to learning opportunities that we couldn't have accomplished alone. In total, the library offered 291 free programs with a total attendance of 2,651. We had a record 150 children register for Summer Reading Club, and we partnered with the Worcester Public Library on the passport design this year, providing options for children to participate in either community. Credit also goes to our senior library assistant, Jen, who designed separate reading logs and library bingo activity sheets for both early years, teens, and adults, making Summer Reading Club accessible to all age groups for the first time. Next slide, please. With the continued demand for after-school programming, we've had to seek alternative solutions to meet this need, as the children's library is not big enough to accommodate both programs and the high number of visits to the facility in the afternoons. We're currently using grant funds to cover the additional cost of renting the studio room in the community centre for our after-school programs. Next slide, please. Circulation of both adult and print materials, adult and children's print materials has returned to pre-pandemic levels, which has been really great to see. Circulation of library materials increased by another 8% compared with 2022. And although total borrowing is still below our pre-pandemic high of 80,000, this is entirely due to the continued decline in DVD borrowing. This used to account for 35% of our borrowing, with over 24,000 circulations each year, and is now only 11% with less than 7,000 circulations. Ebook and audiobook borrowing increased by another 12% after plateauing in 2022, and is now 18.5% of our total circulation. Additional investment is going to be required in this area to meet demand, to both reduce waiting times and to accommodate the higher cost of purchasing these items. Next slide, please. Our Library of Things continues to grow in both usage and size. In addition to increasing the number of e-readers and portable DVD players, we also added other non-traditional items such as an Instant Pot, light therapy lamps, a projector, and noise-cancelling headphones. Other community organisations have also been able to benefit from these items for their workshops and presentations, and this collection will continue to grow according to the community need and interest, and also our available storage space. Next slide, please. Our second strategic area is to create welcoming spaces. Visits to the library increased by 37% in 2023 for a total of 54,749 visits. We also returned to our full pre-pandemic operating hours with increased Saturday hours and resumed Sunday opening. We're now open 53 hours a week again. Next slide, please. Some space enhancements included new lounge furniture, an accessible computer workstation, new furniture for the deck areas, and an RFID conversion of the library collection. RFID, which stands for Radio Frequency ID, will improve the speed and accuracy at checkout for our patrons and will also streamline the process for our patrons across the 3 Sea to Sky libraries. These capital purchases were all made possible through one-time grant funding from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs Public Libraries branch. These one-time enhancement grant funds were awarded to all libraries to recognise the critical role played by libraries in the community. They're to be used by 2025 to augment local services, programmes and collections. And these one-time funds will be allocated to priority projects across our 4 strategic areas with an emphasis on improving accessibility and outreach. Our partnership with the Village of Pemberton on the Pemberton Accessibility and Inclusion Advisory Committee will also inform some of these projects. One challenge we are continuing to try and accommodate is the growing need for meeting space and Zoom calls in our small open concept space. And so we will be looking at solutions for that in the coming year. Next slide, please. Our 3rd strategic area is to build community and connections. We welcomed a record 522 new patrons to the library in 2023. This is a 31% increase. Pre-pandemic, the average new registrations each year was around 420. So this is indicating a growing demand for library services in the community. As we continue to look for new opportunities to connect our community with library services, highlights from 2023 include the new community calendar we host on our website, monthly visits to the Seal Learning Centre, and the return of our quarterly outreach visits from the CRA and Service Canada. We also continue to offer the free tax filing through the CVITP programme. Next slide, please. And last but not least, our 4th strategic area is to live our values. As is the case with many local businesses, reduced capacity due to inconsistent staffing levels presented the greatest challenge to us in 2023. Robust recruitment and retention through living wage and wellness initiatives remain a top priority for growing the team, but the high cost of living, lack of affordable housing, and limited transit remain the biggest barriers to our recruitment efforts. We're currently operating with a small team of 6, comprised of full-time, part-time, and casual, and our focus remains on fostering our culture of service excellence while cultivating a resilient and healthy workplace through professional development opportunities and wellness initiatives such as a free staff gym pass. Next slide. To summarise, for 2024, we are requesting a 10% increase from 2023. This will support us to continue working towards becoming a living wage employer and will also enable us to increase staffing hours by 5%. This staffing hours increase will be necessary if we are to remain open on Sundays independently of the community centre. This increase will also help us stay on top of other rising costs such as insurance and other operational necessities. Our 4 strategic areas of focus will be strengthening the team, accessibility upgrades, community outreach, and to enhance services and spaces. All the enhancements to services and spaces will come from existing grant funding, and we have received an extension to the Enabling Accessibility Fund grant so that we can hopefully complete the ramp project for the south entrance of the facility in 2024. Next slide, please. So 2023 saw me celebrate my 10th year as the library director. While much has changed in the community over that time, one constant has been the continued support and dedication of our community members and stakeholders. As the library celebrated its 45th birthday last week, I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you to this committee's continued support and investment in this vital community service.
Thank you very much, Emma. Questions?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to you, how energetic you are. You know, it's really cool. That's an amazing library. The only one I have to ask is on slide number 2, it's got a list of all sorts of organizations. I guess they're that support the library.
Yeah, they are key community partners we had in 2023.
I just don't see the SLRD's logo on there.
That is very true. I apologize. This was more for programming and services that we provided. So, for example, yeah, we partnered with Lillooet on the story walk.
Yeah.
And so, yes, but you're right. I should put the SLRD in the future.
Okay, thank you. And like I say, I fully support everything you're doing.
Thanks, Russell.
I just have one question with the rental of the children's space. That room, is there any conflict or is it heavily used room? What I'm really trying to get at is, do you need sort of an addition to the library for more space? And is there a lot of space being targeted at that space that you're renting for the kids?
Oh, so the studio room upstairs? I think
Yes.
Christine could probably speak better to the demand on that space. All of the space in the community centre is under demand.
Right.
We
Yeah.
book 1 hour a week for the rest of the year.
Right.
Because that's what we can kind of work with.
Right, and that's working for you then?
It's meeting a need right now. It's what we've got to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see another solution at this point.
Right.
But that's our most popular programming day, and it would be great to expand it, but I know demand on the space is already really high,
Right.
so.
Is there an opportunity to put the space out on the decking area or something as the weather permits, or?
That is definitely something we do. A lot of our after-school programming will take place outside once the weather improves.
Right.
But it's, we definitely need to have the covered space, and even when it is outdoors, the group gets brought back into the library space as the program ends. So we're just really trying to meet the demand. Yeah,
which is
like
fine.
we would be exceeding occupancy quite often in that space,
Right.
which, yeah, it's a busy, popular space after school.
Well, thank you for your ability to pivot, so they say. Thanks, Ellen.
Anyone else? Okay, Director Ramsden. How long have you been open Sundays? How long has it
We started in October when the community centre were able to open on Sundays as well.
been? And how's the uptick been on?
It's been good. It's steadily growing. A lot of it's weather dependent, as you would imagine. But we're seeing approximately 90 to 100 people during that time, so not insignificant. And we've had really great feedback, like people just appreciate having somewhere to go on a Sunday when the weather is poor, or if they're not into outdoor recreation. So it's been the biggest request we've had since we first closed on Sundays, so it was a big milestone, but it is tenuous for us. We only have 1 staff member available. So we've just hired another staff member, so hopefully that will help with that, because we do need to operate with 2 people, just to allow for illnesses and other things like that, so.
That was my next question. I think you said you have 6 staff now going into the year. Is that a comfortable level or is it no?
It's a very uncomfortable level. Yeah, 8 would be optimal for us. Yeah, it can be tenuous at times, yeah, for sure.
That's part of the request for the connection. Awesome. Thank you very much for your presentation. 10 years. I can't believe it's
I
been
know.
10 years now, but you came in here and you helped build a really warm, inviting, accessible atmosphere in our library, and you've continued to sort of not roll with the punches, but change as demands have changed, and it's such a vital space in our community. So thanks to you and your team.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I will leave these with you, Russell, to pass around.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You received that? Okay, next we've got this one ran away from the agenda. Next we've got the PVTA presentation. Ali Gilchrist. Join us at the table.
Hi,
Afternoon.
thank you so much for having the WTA come on in and be present here for the meeting. We really appreciate the support and all the things that PVUS has done for us in the past with supporting our core funding, which has really been essential for us. So let's go to the next slide, would be great, thank you. So we are very similar to the library in that we have had a new strategic plan, which is for 2024 to 2027, and we've just finalized it, put it out with a new mission statement as well as a vision statement, just to keep things a little bit more simple, with our vision being trails for all, accessible to everyone on the trails, whether you be mountain biking, hiking, mushroom picking, dog walking, anything. And we're also, we have the cross-country ski program happening out at Big Sky too, which we're really excited about. So carrying it into the winter a little bit more as well. And our goal, our mission is to respectfully and collaboratively sustain the trail network for all users. So in a safe manner, in a sustainable manner is really where we're looking at going with that and continuing with that. Our next slide. Our request for additional funding is to assist in keeping the executive director position and the trail crew, the new trail crew positions, which we have added for 2024 in place, and we're requesting an increase of $5,000. So as far as the executive director position, it has been since 2022, there's been an executive director, part-time, 15 hours a week. So that's really one of those core funding things that we rely on PVUS to help us with. It's often difficult to find funding for staffing. So for things like core funding, insurance, all those core things that we're looking at keeping going. So really what I'm looking at trying to do is increase the number of grant submissions so we can diversify our funding a little bit more. And doing that by just increasing the number of grants being submitted. And prior to this, a lot of that grant work was done on the backs of volunteers, which is not sustainable. So it's been, I think, really beneficial for the executive director position to be in the PVTA to just help do that. So just again, establishing more diversified funding opportunities. We want to continue to support PVTA's lead trail builder with additional crew, just so we can safely maintain the trails. In past years, Darren Nickel, our lead trail builder, has been doing a lot of work on his own out on the trails, which for us is, when I came in, was really a bit of a safety concern for me, just with the work that occurs out there. So it was one of my main goals was to get other part-time trail maintenance workers out there with him. And that was actually really initiated by some funding that we got from the SLRD, which was fantastic. It was a small fund, but it just got us going. So we did hire 2 part-time staff in 2023 in the fall. And it's been a noticeable difference on the trails, just with the amount of maintenance that's been done, the level of work that 2 people can do at a time instead of 1 person has just been exponential. So it's really, really benefited. We've had a ton of feedback about the noticeable change as far as the amount of maintenance that had occurred in the fall. So that we were really proud of that. Next slide. So some of the key achievements, again, we did have our strategic plan, so a little bit of visioning and strategy work that we did for the 2024-2027 strategic plan. Just trying to get that diversifying of the funding going in. In 2023, we had an 88% grant success rate, so we felt really fantastic about that. We're just trying to lead some governance initiatives. Recruitment of board members happened. We got a new vice president board member as well as a communications director this year, so that's been fantastic on our board. Again, all volunteer positions, so it really is my work to try to alleviate some of the work that they have been doing. We have some volunteer board members who put in 10, 15 hours a week, which to me is not sustainable. So that's what we're trying to alleviate a little bit. We also, again, just those 2 staff positions, part-time staff positions, were really great. And we also created a lot of employment protocols, and we're in need of some partial funding for those roles as well. The next slide. and again, grants applied for in 2022. Volunteers applied for 4 grants, which was phenomenal, very small amounts. A lot of them were sort of $2,000-3,000 grants for very small projects, but important projects as well. So in 2023, that increased to 8 grants being applied for with 7 successes. So that was fantastic. 2024, looking at diversifying again, and just trying to apply for a few more grants so that we can get some funding in order to continue to work on some of the projects that we're looking at there. Next slide. And again, just some funding diversification. 2022 in comparison to 2023, we did a little bit more fundraising, which was great, and provided us with a nice amount of money that went straight back into the trails. And it will be carried over into this year and utilized partially for those trail maintenance positions. But it is mountain bike specific. So a lot of the funding that we do get comes with very specific parameters, which makes it difficult to initiate projects, sometimes to keep staff, to pay for insurance, all that sort of stuff. So that's where I'm just trying to get some diversification there. Membership was still fantastic. We did have events and trail days that we increased this past year as well. Next slide. Few stats for you. 74 local trails were maintained in the Pemberton Valley last year in 2023. We had over 900 hours for trail building hours, which was phenomenal. A lot of them were project specific, but a lot of them, the majority of it as well was just to get everything as much as we could done for the safety and of the community and sustainability of the trails. So we had, there's Darren pictured there, our master trail builder, along with 2 part-time builders. That's Jared in the background. Next slide. So some of the highlights for Trail Network projects, we had the 1 Mile Lakes Trails, all the new signage was complete. That was definitely a couple-year project. A lot of it again was on the backs of volunteers in the past, so just having the capacity to help out to initiate and follow through with projects has been a big goal of mine. We've had a few projects that were a bit lagging to try and just get going. Mackenzie Basin Loop, there was a new bridge and some trail improvements, including some gravel that was put down on the Mackenzie FSR, which is again a lot of initiatives from many partners in the community. Lots of signing, so big signage campaign with hunting awareness signs, invasive species signs, and some road trail building awareness. It was really fantastic to be a part of the Kapwep-Wepa trail rework and participation in the opening ceremony in honor of Graham Haywood. That was a lovely initiative, again, by SLRD that we participated in. Tour de Sioux Trail, we officially got a Section 57 for that sanctioned trail status as of this year. So that was a really big effort, and that's, I think, been 12 years that's been in the works. Mount Hurry Trail, there's a lot of wayfinding and safety improvements done on that, as that hasn't been touched in quite a little while to do some extra work there. BSF Connector is another one that we're looking at. It's an application that we submitted just recently through the Lillooet Knowledge Keeper for approval of a very small section of new trail for safety reasons, just trying to get people off the tracks, the train tracks. Next slide. So over 80 hours of collaboration with all sorts of partners within the community, Porca, Village of Pemberton, SLRD, RSTBC, Lillooet Nation, and a few others as well. And 710 hours of trail maintenance by volunteers, which was phenomenal for us for last year. That was a real increase And that was just with initiatives to add some additional trail maintenance days, volunteer trail maintenance days. So we're really proud of those numbers. And next slide. And again, just a few of the community collaborations that were happening. One of the really big collaborations is the Trails Working Group meetings, which are meetings between lots of different organizations within the community to just get the Pemberton, just get the initiatives of the Pemberton Valley Recreational Trails Master Plan going. And that's a really large thing that the PVTA wants to work on this year, is just to get those initiatives going. And just again, there's definitely a few things listed there of different community collaborations that we attended. And next slide. 2023 highlights, strategic plan, a lot of trail planning and trail forks updating. So that was really great to get that trails on the apps, on the Trail Forks app updated and in sync with everything that's been happening. That was a huge project by one of our board members, actually. PVTA employees, which the PVTA has been trying to do for years. Lots of engagement with social media, newsletters, Trail User Expo Pancake Breakfast this year, or last year, was a great success. New for the year as well, we've done corporate and commercial memberships, which has brought in a little bit of extra funding, and the increase in the trail maintenance days. And next slide. And just some budgeting there. Currently what we're looking for is again, just focused a little bit more on wages, but what we really do need is that core funding to be able to keep the lights on with administrative, insurance, all sorts of other expenses that we do have there. Next slide. And 2024 goals and projects is implementation of the strategic plan is our first and foremost project that we do want to do. It's sort of our guiding point for us. Project we would like to, again, a lot of these are pending funding, but do some Mosquito Lake trail signage as was done on 1 Mile Lake. So just improving the signage there and replacing a lot of things. We're looking at doing a collaborative trail building workshop with Porca for the public. And it's more of an awareness campaign about road trail building, just to try and talk about the reasons why that doesn't always work and how we can channel the trail maintenance side of things. We are looking at updating the Pemberton trail maps, as a lot of them are outdated, as well as the trail kiosks, doing some work on those. We are looking also at trying to get permissions for existing trails within organizations. We're trying to get a new used snowmobile for the cross-country ski trails, as ours is not working, and luckily we did get one from a local business that we on loan. So we were very fortunate this year, but we need to find a long-term solution for that. Yeah. And just creation of operation manuals and different things like that. There's additional work on the Mount Prairie Trail that needs to be done as well. And of course, maintaining trails for all in Pemberton. And next slide. And again, you will just have a copy of our strategic plan there, the new strategic plan, focusing on 5 major sections there. Trail networks, operations, communications, funding, and relationship building. Next slide. And just wanted to thank you so much for continued support from PVUS. We could not do it without you. All the maintenance that gets done. Thank you.
Thanks, Sally. Thanks for the presentation. Any questions or comments?
No, just thank you once again. You guys do a wonderful job. And it's a huge benefit to the community, obviously. So
Thank you. Yeah.
it's tough.
well appreciated. I just had the opportunity to go for a horseback ride on the Tour de Sioux last fall, and I was really impressed. I just wished it was longer.
I know, well, that's, see what we can do.
It was very good, and I'm really happy to see the road trail awareness up there and
Yeah.
that you guys are working on that. So
Yeah,
that's great.
It's definitely one of the big things in the Trails Master Plan that we, just want to implement and
Yeah.
just start
Yeah, and I'm sure
creating a better understanding.
exactly like education, right? Yeah. Thank you for all your work.
Anyone else? Good. I do notice in your mission that it's all about maintenance. Is there any trail expansion that falls under your mission or your mandate at this point, or is it pretty much maintain and improve what we've got?
Maintaining and improving. I mean, there is the one project that we're looking at. Again, it's the Blood, Sweat and Fear Connector Project. It's a 400-meter piece of trail that we have just put towards the lot knowledge keeper to see if we could potentially do that. And that's just to try and get people off the tracks right there. Just in a certain little area. So that's about as big as it gets for new trail for us, but it is really about maintenance. It's about maintaining what we have because we are so fortunate to have so many trails, kilometers and kilometers of, hundreds of kilometers of trails here. And so it's always interesting when people ask for new trails when we do, there's no way I could ride all those trails or walk all those trails in a season. So
Yeah.
we do have a lot to be thankful for here that we have so much area.
Yeah, I understand. We have an amazing network.
Yeah,
Thanks for the work you guys do on that. So that's a good segment. Thanks very much.
great.
Appreciate
Thank you. And sorry, I'm gonna have to leave the buses, the bus driver is sick today, so. I'm off for pickup.
Okay, we are on to museum. Let's welcome Charmaine Carpenter, the Executive Director Curator for the Pemberton District Museum.
Sit here behind.
Hi, buddy.
Afternoon.
Do you want me to say anything?
No, it's okay.
I'm here.
It's nice to see everybody.
Coming.
Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to summarize our 2023 season and outline our future goals. Next slide, please. The Pemberton Museum opened on June 6, 2023, and was open Tuesday to Saturday until our epic Halloween extravaganza on October 28th. We welcomed almost 3,300 guests, including 567 school children and 28 daycare children. Last season, our event programming made a triumphant return. Next slide, please. We hosted 5 Toonie Tea Tuesdays, 4 featuring performances by talented local musicians, and a special event, we welcomed Lillooet Elder Patricia Ritchie, who graciously shared her life experiences and family history. Next slide, please. Date Nights, an outdoor concert series that included meals from Town Square Restaurant, featured unforgettable live performances by local songbird Sherry Marie Potomi and the renowned Sea to Sky legend That Elvis. Each performer filled our neighborhood with incredible music while the sun set around us and the crowds cheered. Next slide, please. Our recently constructed schoolhouse has started to realize the envisioned potential for which it was built. It provides Pemberton with an affordable, flexible space capable of hosting a variety of events year-round. Some of the events hosted in 2023 included a wedding rehearsal dinner, a memorial for a beloved Pemberton local, children's birthday parties, local business staff parties, board meetings for the Pemberton Trail Association and Pemberton Arts Council, music recitals, art exhibitions, art and yoga workshops, and Camp Hoo-Ha's Ladies Wine Tasting Night. Events planned for 2024 include yoga workshops that have already begun in January, our first wedding on February 24th, a new mother support group that's starting later in February, and we continue to get inquiries for venue rentals each week. It has been our honor to welcome locals to the site, offering a venue for celebrations, learning opportunities, and various other events. Since the end of the 2023 season, management has been making plans for the year ahead. We are laying the groundwork for exciting new programs, site improvements, and creating a work environment that enhances the museum experience for our team and our guests. Next slide, please. Last spring, management began working to modernize our HR policies, procedures, and hiring practices. With the aid of a $10,000 community services grant, our team has written a comprehensive new HR plan and manual. This strategic effort aims to educate and empower our staff, ensuring that they possess the knowledge and confidence they need to excel in their roles. We continue to support our staff's professional development with accredited online courses and attendance at the BC Museum and Heritage Conferences. These events provide valuable opportunities for learning and growth, fostering collaboration with cultural professionals from BC and across Canada. Next slide, please. The off-season provides an opportunity to research and apply for funding and government grants. Following our 5-year strategic plan developed in 2021, we continue to plan improvements to our aging infrastructure, schedule maintenance for our beloved buildings, plan for the expansion of our programming, and the development of new exhibits. We are currently in the initial stages of developing an interpretive plan. This tool is used by museums to engage with their audience and community stakeholders and to reassess their narrative to ensure it is inclusive of all the communities the museum represents. This is an exciting opportunity for the Pemberton Museum to consult with residents and have meaningful conversations about the stories we tell and how they are told. Museums around the world are assessing their collections and archives and engaging with Indigenous communities to ensure that we tell the stories that we tell are accurate and respectful of everyone they represent. This initiative will lead us through the development of a new agricultural exhibit, a depth and substance to existing exhibits, and include a major relabeling project to provide more detailed descriptions of the artifacts in our collection. While still in the early stages, we are actively fostering communication with community stakeholders, including the Lillooet Culture, Heritage, and Language Authority, and seeking funding from both provincial and federal sources. The Pemberton Museum is the caretaker of an irreplaceable collection of old buildings and structures, some of which are over 125 years old. Maintaining these buildings and preparing for the challenges of a warming climate is crucial for their continued existence, as well as the safety of our staff and guests. We are thrilled that the major BC Hydro upgrade started in 2021 was completed last spring. We are now exploring the possibility of adding an irrigation system to areas of the museum most affected by the recent drought, particularly focusing on our majestic cedar trees and the aging cedar shingled roofs of the Sean's House, Barney House, and the Samjum Cabin. Additionally, we were planning to renovate the washroom building this year. With the emergence of winter activities and expanding use of the site, we anticipate a growing need for accessible public washrooms year-round. The museum continues to collaborate with Custom Fit Communications on the upgrade and migration of our website and online archives. Once completed, the enhanced platform will offer improved accessibility and functionality to visitors exploring our digital resources. This project will be completed by the end of 2024 and was funded by a successful grant in 2021. We are eternally grateful for the support provided in 2023 for year-round full-time management positions. Offering 12-month employment contracts and livable wages has enabled our hardworking management team to focus on grant writing, staff training, venue rentals, and strategic planning during the off-season. With the support of matching grants, we commit to offering between 5 and 8 seasonal positions to local students and young people aged between 15 and 30. These opportunities provide skill development and invaluable experience preparing our young people for their future endeavors. Thank you for the opportunity to share our work and future plans. The staff and board of directors are honored by the responsibility entrusted to us. We invite our community and visitors from around the globe to explore Pemberton's vibrant history and embark on a journey of discovery with us. We'd also like to extend a personal invitation to each of you of the committee to tour the museum in 2024, to see firsthand how it has grown and evolved in the last 5 years. Thank you for your time.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments?
Well, I just think it's a wonderful place. Yeah, it's just amazing the amount of stuff you've got and how it's growing. So good on all of you folks for doing what you're doing, because yeah, it's just amazing. I can remember when we first moved here, Sanders' dad, when he was alive, he wanted to go on the bud car to Lillooet. So I took him over there, and where we went was to the museum. And it's just, they're just a wealth of knowledge in that, and this one's exactly the same, so good on you, and you'll definitely have my support, that's for sure.
Awesome, anyone else? Go ahead.
I just have one little comment. I was just wondering about the collection itself. Do you have the right humidity and all of that?
We do,
to
and that
protect
was-
everything, or?
That was
I'm
set up
just-
before I ever started.
Yeah.
And we do close the buildings in the winter for that purpose, so we
Right.
take out things that are fabric, soft fabric things, store them properly in acid-free paper. Nikki Madigan did an amazing job of setting up the museum to be a world-class museum. So what I stepped into was a lot of groundwork and systems already in place.
Right, so you don't need infrastructure as far as humidifiers and all that sort of thing.
All of that is cared for. Our archives room is relatively small, which is
Right.
actually a benefit, and it's one of the few areas of the museum that has a sprinkler system, so it's also protected.
Right, yeah, well, nicely done, it's lovely, the museum, thank you for your work and your team.
It's really fun. We love it.
Can you talk a little bit more about how you said you go through the Lillooet knowledge keepers in terms of some of the artifacts and stuff we have in the museum? What does that relationship look like? How does that work?
So we have had, since I started 2 years ago, we've had, most of our staff has been from Lillooet Nation. And so not intentionally hiring them for their knowledge, they've added depth to some of the things that we have on the site. And through that, their families have come, the local community school has been coming to the museum as well. And so we've had different people from their community reaching out to us, wanting to help us translate things, to update some signage and that kind of thing. And rather than approach it that way, we've decided to approach it through the organization that we're approaching right now, or speaking with right now is, it's the Language and Culture, here we go. Lillooet Culture, Heritage and Language Authority. And so before we take any steps, we really want to make sure that we've set things up properly and are getting the correct permission and doing things with the right protocol. So we've written some fundamental grants, just really just to touch on it, but we're not moving forward with big grants until we actually know how we're moving forward with that.
And in terms of your displays and the history behind them, that conversation happens all the time?
It does happen all the time. It's amazing how people come through, and it's the Indigenous objects. We don't have that many Indigenous objects that they might be made by Indigenous people, but they were donated by settlers or family members. So we have permission. Everything that needed to be reclaimed was already that transition already happened before I ever came on site.
Cool.
But it is people have the most questions, and we want to make sure we're providing accurate information. And we often have cards that if people are asking questions we don't know the answers to, that send them to the SLRD or other organizations like Lillooet Nation to actually answer the questions appropriately, because we don't have the knowledge. But we would like to have the knowledge.
That's great to hear. No, because there's a lot of history there and layers that we're still learning and discovering for our area. So being able to vet some of the artifacts and the history behind it and make sure that it tells the tale
Appropriately.
is key. So, and it certainly has grown and changed over the last 5 years. It's a true destination spot now. So great work for all of you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
See,
Well, it's okay. I was just gonna add to it. We did start as soon as repatriation became it was talked about. The museum reached out to the Squamish Nation when Nikki was here. I helped to, put together a welcome to the museum. And we also reached out, we tried to reach out, the board approved 2 appointments to the board of, people from the Statliam Nation, because we couldn't, we had to be all inclusive, because the area, that includes the entire area. So we reached out in writing, and then we followed up when Nikki was still here before Charmaine came. We reached out to ask if they would appoint 2 members to our board. And because of COVID and so many deaths in the community, that sort of took a bit of a backseat. But we have continued to communicate and send that welcome for 2 people to be put on to the, appointed to the board from the Statliam Nation. And then more recently, the cultural worker, who's Nadine Pascal. Charmaine, we typed up basically a welcome for the culture, for her from Lillooet Nation. And hopefully from that, we can collaborate with the rest of the bands, because that's a difficult thing, because each individual band has their own protocols, their own cultural input that they would like to have. So I just wanted the board to know that we're being very conscientious and considerate of the entire Statliam Nation in our community. And we are continually communicating. And the good thing that I see that Charmaine touched on is that we do have a lot more people from Lillooet Nation coming to the site and with information and enlightenment on some of the artifacts. So there's the discussions have started, and you're right, it's just going to keep going forward. It may be slow, but there's a commitment, a very important commitment there. Just wanted to know that.
Glad to hear it. Thanks for that, Brenda.
I just wanted to say that the Canadian Museum Association recognized the Pemberton Museum as a small organization working towards that work. And they wrote us up as in part of one of their toolkits that they feature for small museums and how to do that work.
Wow.
Thanks again, you guys. Appreciate it. Okay. That's it for delegations. So we're going to move on to 6, which is the consent agenda. Would anybody like to point anything out? Seeing none, motion to approve the consent agenda. Director Mack, seconded by Director Ramsden. Any discussion? Any opposed? Motion carries. Any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none, we're on to 8.1, which is SLRD and CAO verbal report.
Hi, everyone.
Yes.
Thank you for my first PVUS meeting. It's exciting to be here and look forward to being more knowledgeable at the future ones. I'm week 4 into the job. I do have one update that the Recreation Service Working Group made up of Village of Pemberton and the Squamish-Lillooet Regional District. So staff have met and are looking at a timeline for phase 2 of the Recreation Service transfer, which is being discussed.
Any questions? Motion to receive. Director Mack, seconded by Director Ramsden. Any opposed? Motion carries. Village of Pemberton CAO verbal. It's Tracy.
Thank you, Chair. Just in follow-up from the November 30th meeting and the request that I connect with Dave Dendoff over potential location for the Sandy dump. We did have a meeting scheduled, but that got postponed. I am meeting with him on February 11th.
Yeah, good.
I will follow up with you then.
Yeah, well, good luck.
Thank you.
Questions? Motion receive. Director Mack, seconded by Director Kent. Any opposed? Motion carries. That will take us into Recreation 4th quarter report. Mr. Ernst, please approach the table.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure. So this is a information report on our fourth quarter of 2023. I'm pretty pleased with how everything has progressed through 2023. I think our numbers show continual improvement, continual increases in participation in programming. 1,241 unique registrations for children's programs alone for October through December. That's a lot of 0 to 12-year-olds through the facility with all of their parents in tow. So that's pretty impressive. Fitness programs were full, 1,373 unique participants in value-added classes, 144 classes. So that in itself, again, is quite a few individuals through the facility on a daily basis. All of those programs have wait lists, so that we're working really diligently to ensure that we have maximum participation. People have, the bonus to COVID for fitness programming is that everybody signs up in advance now, even if it is a value add and a drop-in. They have the ability to sign up early, and the community has really embraced calling and letting us know if they're not coming so that we can go through the wait list. And many days, the class is still full because we have that many on the wait list. So, and they're like, yeah, I'll be there at 10. So we call them 10 minutes before the class. Seniors programming, 138 unique registrations this fall, just for seniors, fitness classes that we offered. That's been fantastic. We're continuing with Zoom options for individuals who are still preferred to do it at home, because that's what we started during COVID, and that's been fantastic. Movement and Social Matters program that we piloted in conjunction with Sea to Sky Community Services Better at Homes programmer. That has continued on a weekly basis. It's full every week. We're really excited about that partnership and the potential of growing that opportunity for seniors in the community. Med Shed has started to take in new participants, which is fabulous. Pemberton Stitchers are every other Friday in the facility. And we're continuing to work with outside organizations to make sure that we're providing positive programming for that demographic. Youth programming, as you may recall, in the second quarter, we met with Pemberton Secondary School principal about potentially partnering and potentially helping facilitate some programming in conjunction with the school. We did a survey at that time, and we modified the REC's hours in the fall. So October to December, we saw a 41% increase in participation in the youth center hours. We didn't actually increase the amount of hours that were open. We just spread the hours that we had allocated for operations across additional days. And the youth have been receptive to that. As well, it's also increased the opportunity for additional programming. And so we've got Sea to Sky Community Services outreach in there, one afternoon a week doing girls programming before our youth center hours. And we're also facilitating lunchtime programming at Pemberton Secondary School 2 days a week, where we have a youth worker going in to run programming in the school to help with the school's supervision challenges and things like that. So it's all been extremely positive on that front. So we're pretty excited about how that's all moving forward. Adult drop-in sports has been moving along quite nicely in the fall. Lots of sessions, lots of participants. Fitness center use itself, 10,183 unique visits to the fitness center in, I believe it's 95 days of operations in the fourth quarter. That's a 20% increase over 2022, which is fantastic. We've also had a 10% increase across the board in membership sales, which is on par. I'm not sure we can get much busier than those numbers say, but we will see what first quarter of 2024 turns out to be. Facility use, 3,089.25 hours of use. That's just rentals. That doesn't include programming hours, that doesn't include school use hours. And that is more than double the amount of hours of use from fall of 2019. So we are definitely busy. Outdoor use, as you can anticipate, there was an increase from fall of 2022. However, we also added facilities and things like that as well. And we had an interesting fall, so it was a little late. So we had some additional soccer bookings and things like that, but that's on par for what we can anticipate. You may recall, we also added counters to the doors. So the door counters tell us that between October 1st and December 31st of 2023, we had 114,000 people come through the doors. So that's just when it opens one way. So the busiest day we had, couldn't dig up the numbers. However, December 2nd was the craft fair. And I think there was 6,000 people through the facility that day, something insane. Between programs and everything else, we were also operating upstairs. So it was a very busy day. Lots of ongoing preventative maintenance in the fall, lots of fun little hiccups that kept Jeff on his toes. Lots of work on working with the library on the accessibility plan. And lots of work on just keeping staff's research current and going from there. So other than that, if you have any questions, fire away.
Christine, questions?
Yeah.
I think this is a question for all of us. This place seems, from what you're saying, is we're getting maxed out in capacity. Have we got a plan in the future, like to expand or to provide more space?
I think we need more indoor and outdoor recreation space. I think we've always agreed on that. I think one of the next things we.
The outdoor recreation space, I think, is easier to attain than the indoor, right?
Mhm.
But I think we as a group, based on what you're saying, we need to start thinking about this, whether it's 5 years down the road or whatever.
I mean, we talked about it, I think it was our last council meeting about the need to reopen the recreation master plan. And we also talked about including within the recreation master plan arts and culture in there, so perhaps adding that to and weaving those together. And what that would look like, indoor space at Dendorf Park is one of, the next goals, I think, what that looks like. Again, opening the master plan and having the conversation what that looks like, I think is really important. I agree, we need to start planning for it.
Yeah, we seem to be.
Yeah, you see some great collaboration between the museum and Pemberton Arts Council there, though, that Charmaine just mentioned, and how they have partnered to have some meetings and things like that there too. So there's definitely some grassroots initiatives being explored, and we're in contact with all of them as well and doing everything we can to help them facilitate growing their business and their programming also. So yeah. Lots of great
But
things happening.
all our services are bursting at the seams by the sounds of it, so growth is necessary and inevitable. Go ahead, Dr. Ken.
My question is just about the accessibility ramp and so on. Are you expecting to break ground this spring?
Right now, we're waiting on some engineering plans for that particular project, and then we'll be reaching out and finding a project manager. And our goal is, this year, probably not spring, but this year.
That's great. And just on the outdoor programming for this coming spring and summer, how is that coming on? Are people wanting to sign up folks for, softball and?
And that's all in.
No, I was interested in pickleball actually, because it's the latest craze and I hear it's very fun.
Yeah.
And I'm a very much of a newbie, but is you're doing a pickleball indoors, I
We
understand.
do. We have a drop-in pickleball. I believe it's on Saturdays from 12 to
Right.
3, I think.
Yes.
So you should come try it inside first. And then when we did the line painting on the new basketball court, there are actually 3 pickleball courts there. And we have portable nets and paddles and balls that you can come and get from the community center to go over and play over there. And I do believe when the repaint the tennis courts at Creekside, they will be putting some pickleball lines there as well. So I think in the grand scheme of it, we'll probably have approximately, well, we have 3 pickleball courts at the basketball court. And then there'll probably be the same amount over at the tennis courts as well. Maybe
Oh,
4
that's
courts, I
great.
think.
Yeah,
Not 100% sure what operations has planned, but I know it's in the plans.
awesome.
Yeah, so yeah.
Anyone else? All good? Yeah, thank you very much for your report. I guess you're not going anywhere.
No.
Because that takes us to. Oh, sorry, motion to receive the report. Director Max, second by Director Cannon, any opposed, motion carries. That's gonna take us to the recreation draft budget and 5-year plan financials. Thanks for joining us, Thomas. And just a quick note, maybe to the group, that we've been working hard to sort of align our budget cycles with a few services because we don't quite operate at the same schedules at the village and SLRD. So this has been just presented. Certainly if there's any high level questions or pressing questions at the end of it, the table will be open for that, but just to let you know, this is the first go at it and we're gonna have another chance to get a little bit deeper into it after Thomas and Christina refined it some more. So yeah, any big questions at the end of the report, no problem, but this isn't certainly our last go at this budget. And with that,
Thank you very much. And yeah, we've been able to share this with Ms. LaFrance, the finance director at the SLRD, and with an effort to be able to incorporate the baseline assumptions into the planning cycle for the budget. I wanted to start by just highlighting that as the chair highlighted, we will be seeking some council input and direction. I think some of the questions have already been discussed about accessibility projects and some of the future planning that incorporates the recreation master plan or development thereof will be further considered and brought forward at the next time we meet with respect to capital in particular. And the upcoming meeting on the 13th of February will be the first time that council reviews that. I did also want to highlight that on March 5th, we will be bringing forward a public presentation of the budget as well. Should be held at the rec center. I don't know if we'll crack 6,000 through the door, but I guess we can hope. The organization of the budget for those that reviewed it as an appendix does cover the 5 areas being the community center, Meadows Fields, the youth center, Gates Lake, and End Park, along with the consolidated presentation. A couple of highlights that have guided the development of the budget include that generally the service levels have restored to pre-pandemic levels. So much of the board will recall that over the last couple of years, the services were closed, the doors were closed, and we didn't see normal operations. Year over year, we've seen over 6,000 hours added to the assumptions for this upcoming year. So that's driving the biggest change in the operational labor assumptions. That's a combination of incremental labor and overhead to support keeping the doors open. There's additional asset completion at Dandruff Park. The amenity building's going to be in service this year. So in addition to having just turned the big lights on above the soccer fields a couple of years ago and having to maintain more services with the bike skill park, there's a few assumptions here with just the incremental labor to support that. There's a full I guess a half-time FTE allocated out to support that service, and I think that forecast is seeming to be about right. But highlight too, we're continuing to see inflationary pressures across the board, but Christine's doing in my opinion, a wonderful job managing the renewal of some of those contracts, renegotiating a few of those key contracts at the rec center, for sure. And some of those assumptions are being reflected in the maintenance and contractor and labor. But I believe will be managed. With respect to the 5-year plan, generally, we've been forecasting and looking at those contracts and some of the requirements to maintain the assets and seeing about a 3% increase just built in for now into the preliminary budget in the 5-year plan. And further refinements will be made to some of the capital assumptions as well. That'd be my high level commentary. Just ask that if there's any input or feedback that we can bring forward through council as well, and back to this group at the next session. Is there anything that?
So right now, inflation's at what, 3.4%? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hanging right in there.
Yeah, it's hard to predict where it's going.
Well, I personally don't think it's going down anytime soon, but anyways. So, okay, well, that's what we have to work with.
Yeah, I would say generally, like, we're evaluating some of our contractors and seeing what can be done in-house with public works labor and collaborating. We're kind of evaluating, as I mentioned, what some of those renewals look like. And I guess in more detail, some of our contractors are simply passing through their costs. We're seeing, to speak generally, we're seeing a lot of additional fuel surcharges still be included. We're seeing additional hours to get to Pemberton being included. So we're seeing what we can do to mitigate some of that. Oftentimes looking to local contractors, or as I said, working in-house. And yeah, I think that inspection of the kind of the master plan for the building maintenance and service and managing deferrals and stuff is allowing us to prioritize and kind of manage that expense to ensure it doesn't increase greater than that rate.
How old is that building now?
15?
So all the warranty's gone.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, well, that's good. I mean, so it's then we have to maintain what we have. So, it is what it is. Yeah, very good.
Anyone else?
It's good. Thank you.
All right, well, thanks for that. I look forward to the capital discussion and the capital budget and next.
Ramsden I just saw a hand flashing.
There you go. Director Ramsey, go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick question. For I think it was the Meadows Park, do we, or I guess, yeah, do Recreation Services maintain that field? Okay.
I'll take that one. Yes, Recreation Services maintains the field. It is a lease from School District 48 at $1. And we maintain it in its current state and rent it at 0 fee at this stage. So,
okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Very good. Okay.
I'm gonna need your details, please.
Sure.
Oh, sure.
You guys connect offline there. We don't usually, and it's not that I'm resistant, we just don't usually open the questions in the middle of a meeting.
Sorry.
So that's just the process. It's not me shutting you down. So, but you're welcome to connect offline with us if you like. Motion to receive, please. Have the Director Max, seconded by Director Ramsden. Any discussion? Any opposed? Motion carries. And that takes us to 8.5, information report, solid waste operations and services update. Some staff to join us. Yeah, if you want to grab details or connections, go ahead.
Oh, yay. This is an entity we're very much forgetting. We've tried to reach out several times. We have not received either. So. Sure.
Oh, okay. That we just manage it. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Maybe it's pretty. Okay.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thanks for joining us. When you're settled in, the table's all yours to talk to us about our solid waste operations and services. All yours.
So my name is Marie-Lou Leblanc, Resource Recovery Coordinator for the ESRD. So we're here today to present you an information report about the Pemberton Transfer Station following the 1-year operation. So back in 2020, the ESRD published a survey to get a little bit of a feedback from residents of what they wanted to see with their new transfer station, what kind of materials they would like to see being accepted. And following that, we moved to the new site on 1929 Stonecutter Place in November of 2022 with a few additional services. So first of all, we added a scale which allowed the transfer station to charge per ton instead of cubic meters. We also were able to accept credit debit payment. We added the reuse shed, which we call a free store. We added a rotation bin for yard waste, mattresses, and clean drywall, which we didn't have in the past. And with the new transfer station, Lillooet Construction Enterprise, so LCE, was a contractor. So far, the ESRD staff been really pleased with the level of service they're providing. They take good pride of their work they're doing. They keep the site very, very clean. They're really doing a good job. They're really proactive with any issues they're facing. Obviously, the size and the shape of the site was a little bit challenging to get used to. That kind of like took us a little bit of time to see the perfect flow. So that kind of like required a few changes over the year. But LCE staff have been really great at adapting, finding solutions, being really proactive with any challenges and just keeping us SRD staff in the loop of any issues that was occurring. So that's kind of a quick overview. In terms of the reuse shed, at the 2022 PVUS meeting, there was a request for the staff to bring back kind of an oversight of the reuse shed. So it is very well used within the Pemberton community. It is a really small area, however, like it's a small C-can container. LCE have been really good at keeping it clean, removing the items after a while, but that obviously any items that wasn't taken by residents are going to the landfill bin. So at the end of the day, it's about 7 tons a month, which is 84 tons a year, which based on the Whistler transfer station, it's almost $20,000 just in tipping fees. Overall, the staff is still pleased with the reuse shed. We heard from the communities, they're really pleased with it. And as the next step, staff will look at options. How can we reduce the amount of waste creating from that reuse shed and see if there's any other options we can look into. But it's kind of like the beast of a reuse shed at a transfer station. We don't have much time to keep those items. It has to rotate on a monthly basis and even more frequently. And for now, the only option is to send it to the landfill, unfortunately. And then at what we think we'll be doing is March board meeting, we will be bringing a report a little bit more in detail in terms of like Pemberton transfer station and other transfer stations and landfill in terms of waste diversion, a little bit more detailed. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Any questions?
No, I think it's wonderful.
Certainly a lot more functional and cleaner and tighter than what we had a couple of years ago, so it's good to see. And I agree, the flow is better now, with some of the tweaks that you guys made out there, it does run a little bit better out there, which is great. Do you see any other major or any other low-hanging fruit for more diversion opportunities?
So what we want to do this year is another waste audit to really better understand what type of waste we're sending to the landfill from the Pemberton transfer station and see what could be diverted. I also want to organize a site visit of the Western transfer station with the LCE staff in a really short time to better understand how they receive the materials, their diversion program, and how can we adapt a little bit and to really reduce the amount of waste going to the landfill and increase the diversion.
I'm glad to hear that. I feel like we can, as a community, we can do better. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing what the results of that. Any more questions? We're all good. Thank you very much. Can I get a motion to receive, please? Director Max, seconded by Director Kennett. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. That takes us to 8.6, which is the information report on the 2024 draft budget, meeting number 2 for PVUS services. Mr. France will be presenting. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry, I'm coming from my couch, so I know I look a little different because I broke my ankle on the weekend. So it's being raised right now and it's a little awkward, but I hope you could bear with me. I'll share my screen and just go through the report.
We'll blame any miscues on painkillers.
Right. Okay. So I reviewed the non-market change assessments for Area C and the Village of Pemberton, and overall, it's very good for absorbing extra taxation this year, just due to the increase for both parties. But yeah, overall, the increase, the assessment change from 2023 revised roll to 2024 was $256,909,414, and 71% of that is non-market change. So it's a lot higher than what is normally a non-market change year. And we're going to talk about all the PVUS services, and they're listed in the report. And so far, these draft budgets, the requisition is an increase. And I've listed all of the different services that are increasing. So in Pemberton Fire Rescue, it shows a small increase of 3.7%. With a total requisition of 229,499. This is not confirmed as of yet, but will be confirmed when it comes back in March. The fire committee just has to meet one more time to go over and finalize the 2024 figures. We reviewed the Pemberton District Search and Rescue with the delegation last month, but they had a reduced requisition this year. Pemberton Refuse Grounds shows an increase of 12.4% for a requisition of 799,743. The Pemberton Recreation Services also is not finalized. But as of today, it shows a 9.7% increase for the requisition, and this should be final when we bring it back to the March PVUS meeting. So the museum spoke through the delegation for their budget, and it was an increase of 14.7 over last year. The library as well shows a 9% increase. The cemetery shows a 36.4% increase, but the total requisition is 3,750. And there's a small increase now in the Pembina Valley Trails budget of 5.4% of an increase. And overall, the PVUS services combined have a 9.3% increase. But this additional requisition equates to an increase in taxation of $12.54 per 1 million of assessment. And that's assuming that 1 million of assessment is equal in each year. So it's not a perfect calculation, but it's a basis to estimate. And I'll just take any questions on that requisition amount and the non-market change if there's anybody.
Questions? You're not on my screen, Director Ramsden, so if you have a question, just speak up.
Okay, I'll just continue on then. Okay. So the 2023 forecasted amounts within these budgets are not final as well. So they're still subject to change, but they should be substantially final. So they shouldn't change too much. And I won't go over the search and rescue because that one was pretty simple. So for the Pembina Refuse Grounds, basically there was a large deficit carry forward, and there's different reasons for this, but mainly there was an over budget item due to the GFL servicing costs in 2023. And I also added a $15,000 waste audit into the Pembina Refuse Grounds in this version of the budget. There is also available short-term borrowing in this budget of 60,000, and this was when we started the new transfer station. This was part of that loan. We didn't pull it all. We only ended up pulling 200,000, but there's 260 available. I won't use the 60,000 short-term borrowing unless the short-term rates go down, as this has to be paid back in 2 years anyway, and we can just pay it back without having to have an extra interest charge on it in 2 years, I believe. And then there's a capital reserve transfer. I just reduced it in 2024 to 15,000. And then when you look at the 5-year plan, though, I've made it up in the 2025, as there's no carry forward deficits, so there's actually more funding available in 2025. And I'll just take any questions on that, on this item. I'll go to the budget if that's helpful as well. I'll just scroll down to that budget item. Oops.
So most of our increase, Director LaFrance, is through the increased GFL costs and staffing. Is that where most of that increase is coming from then?
Yeah, I'm just getting to that actual budget, but so for 2023's forecast, we just under anticipated the cost for the GFL servicing and the tipping fees, because we only had 2 months to go off of for 2022. And then we also didn't borrow the 60,000 yet, and that's just due to the rates. The borrowing rates aren't very favorable, and it's better just to pay it off without having to pay additional interest. And then, like I mentioned, we added the 15,000 for the waste audit, which wasn't in the budget last time. And so that's the main components of the increase. And then for 2025, there's a 5-year plan, and it's basically flat to, it's showing basically flat to 2024. And nothing else of note for the 5-year, like the 2025 to 2028, other than I'm just making up that the difference of the 15,000 capital transfer. So I'll go back to my notes. Oops.
Director LaFrance, can I go to questions?
Sure, yes.
My question is on the contract. Is that a solid contract over so many years, or is that sort of buttoned down, or is that open to renegotiation?
The GFL contract?
No,
The folks that are running it on a daily basis.
I'm not sure actually on the contract stipulations. I don't think we could talk about that in open, but I don't know. I don't have that information. It's a brand new contract, so I'm assuming it's for at least a couple years.
Do you have any comment?
Can we talk
We
about
can
it?
speak to the current contract.
In open, you can speak to the term of the contract, so when it started and when it ended, or when it's coming to end, and if there's any renewals.
I don't have the contract in front of me, but we started the contract in October 2022. And I believe it was a 3 years contract with 2 1-year renewal. But I am not 100 confident, however.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mary Lou.
Any other questions on the refuse grounds budget? Seeing none, Mr. France, are we looking for, do you want us to approve any of these budgets, or are we looking to do them all sort of collectively after we've gone through the? If there's any of these services that we're happy with, are we ready to go to resolution, or are there still more refinements to come?
For the local services, like so the museum and the search and rescue, those ones we can definitely approve if the committee is ready to just approve that amount. But for the permanent refuse grounds, I'll bring it back for sure because there'll be some changes with the forecast for 2023.
All right, if there's no more questions on this, let's go to 2004.
All right, so this is the permanent TV and radio service, which has been stopped. It's no longer in service, and it shows just the remaining available funding being pulled forward into 2024, but it typically should have no expense, but just in case. And we haven't received any more information on the dissolving of the Pemberton TV Society. I anticipate finding some more information on that soon. We just right now we're pretty much max capacity on budget and financials right now in audit, but I'll bring the information to the society when I have it. And then we have the Pemberton District Community Fund, which is also completed. This has been replaced with the PDIF funds, which I haven't requested an increase for these requisitions as well. And that's a discussion point for the committee. If they wanted to increase the PDIF funds, we can. I'll just go to the PDIF services right now, just to see where we're at. Oh. Oh, they're after this. Sorry, apologies. There we go. So they're showing as a flat requisition for both the funds. The recreation fund is $113,076. And the economic development fund is remaining the same at 75,453. There's very small amounts available to increase. So the Economic Development Fund can go up basically $5,000 or $4,000. And the Recreation Fund can go up about $6,000. Is the committee happy with these PDF funds at these levels?
I've got a question from Director Mack.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like to increase it the maximum amount we can, or is it 5 in one and 6 in the other? Because that just gives us the ability, when people come forward, you know, later on in the year, we actually possibly have some money available. Should take advantage of that, I believe.
Okay. Anyone else? Did you want to make a motion to that effect?
Yes.
And seconder, Director Kennett, anyone want to speak to the motion? Your hand up, Director Ramsden, I can't tell. Okay, then I will call the question. Any opposed? Motion carries. And thank you, we're on to the Pembroke Museum.
Oops. All right, so yeah, Pembroke Museum, they spoke about their budget request. The Pembroke Library as well. And then the cemetery, we did receive 1 year of a request. And then we have the Pemberton Recreation Services. I'll just go to these bylaws, the actual budgets to discuss these services. They were previously discussed by the Village of Pemberton as well, but there was some notable changes that I wanted to bring to the committee. So in 2023, the Pemberton District Community Center, there was a change in the rates for MFA borrowing for issue 101, and also a change in the actuarial rate, which is basically the revenue we receive from MFA to offset the interest they receive when they invest our principal payments. So basically this caused a deficit carry forward of $55,510 because it changed the principal amount as well as the interest increased quite a bit. It went from 2.25 to 3.39%, and that's the interest rate changes. So I just wanted to make note of that, as well as the 2024 insurance amount. There was an updated valuation done for this Pembroke Community Center, so that's why it is increased quite a bit as well. And those are the two increases outside of what the Village of Pemberton already discussed for the complex, the district, the community complex. I'm just going to go through the Pembroke Meadows Fields. There's no changes there from my side of things. Youth Senior Center as well, there's very little change. There's just a small increase to the insurance. And the Gates Lake Park, I did also add some time for SLRD staff to work on this Gates Lake potable water project. So there's $15,000 added on to the 2024 Gates Lake Park budget. This project has been on the books since 2019, and I just want to finish it off. It's using Community Works funds. However, staff time isn't recoverable under Community Works funds. And I'll just pause there for any questions.
Yeah, so that potable water at Gates Lake Park, like you say, we've been working on that for a long, long time. And there's money set aside to finish that project. Now, if we need more money, it's over and above this, it's Community Works funds, I believe. Like here you see Community Works funds that are slated for that. I think there was, how much, Angela, was it 125,000 was set aside?
I believe it was just 65,000.
What was that?
65.
65, okay. So whatever we need to make that happen, I'm more than willing to put community, like Area C Community Works funds towards that. And let's get it done. I mean, this has been going on and on and on. And that's a real sort of necessity at that park, is to have potable water there. So I think we need to up that to a priority to get that done. And if we need to, put staff time towards it, let's do it. Because like I say, that's been on the books as long as I've been here. That's like 10 years now or something. So that's crazy. Should have been done long ago. So the funding is there.
Yeah, so I've started the discussion with UES to see if we can put this on their work plan for 2024. It hasn't been confirmed yet, but I do have this time allocation just as a contingency in case they do have the time to work on this project. And if they do have the time, they're obviously going to be reviewing the cost as well, because now the cost is definitely going to be a little more increased, I believe. And so that's why this 15,000 is there. There could be Area C amenity funds for the recreation side of things that could offset the staff time, but I know that those funds are also being used up quite a bit. So I'm hoping that the committee is okay with this 15,000 as a basically taxation to start the potable water project at the Gates Lake Park again.
So sorry, that 15% is on top of the 65 that Director Max committed, is it?
Yeah, so the staff time is not eligible under the Community Works Fund.
Right.
So that's why it's shown as not being recovered by gas tax Community Works Fund. This is just staff time, 15,000.
So how much do we need then for staff time?
15 is what she's put down.
I've just estimated so far 15,000 in staff time, but that's just a really rough estimate, and we'll just kind of start the project.
Yeah, again, we can use amenity funds from the recreation side.
Yeah, there is that option as well. But I'd like to see if it's at all possible to do that this year, and so I'm still waiting on the response from UES, and and most likely Allison and Ed will have to be involved.
Yeah, I guess the point I'm trying to make is we have to get this done because it's been going on for years. I'd like to see it done before I'm done.
Okay, let's see what UES comes back with in terms of their capacity to get this done, and then we can also follow up on how the
well's already there.
How the final funding looks for it as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Director Franz?
Yeah, so just the Dendorf Park, and then I don't think there's too much more just other than the Permanent Valley Rec Trails. So I just increased the requisition slightly over 2023. Sorry. Oh, sorry, that's the PVTA has a slight increase for their base funding as well. The Riverside North expenses are still carrying forward. And it includes $1,000 transferred to the capital reserve, very small capital reserve. And there's a small operating reserve for this service. And I'll just take any questions on that budget. So it's a small increase in the requisition. The total requisition maximum is 78,000. So it's not quite at the max yet. And yeah, I'll just answer any questions if there are any.
Any question on trail service?
I guess the only thing I would say is we need to fund them so that they're capable of maintaining what we've already got. Because as they said, they're not building any new trails. They're just maintaining what we've got. So but they need to have the funding available to do that. So I think that's important.
Anything else? Good? Okay, Ross?
Great, but that's everything. That's all that I have to bring. And if the committee wants to approve any of those smaller local service society requests, that would work for me. And then I won't have to bring them back in March for the committees.
Even like the radio service at zero, we should approve that as is for part of the process.
Sure.
Okay, so let's back up a little bit. Personally, I'd like to see us wait on a couple, because some of these have, you know, increases that are gonna affect our taxation levels. And maybe some more information to come, like the library, like the museum. So I'd like to personally wait on those until we see the full impact of the budget, but if we wanna look at some of the smaller services or the zero increase services, so let's just back up. We can go to permanent search and rescue. That there's a slight decrease in that amount requested there. Would somebody like to move?
I'll move that.
Move approval of that budget, Director Mack, seconded by Director Kennan. Any discussion? Any opposed? Motion carries. I would suggest the refuge grounds we wait. That's a big center. TV and radio service, would somebody like to approve that budget?
Move that.
Director Mack, seconded by Director Kennan. Discussion? Any opposed? Motion carries. And then district community fund, that's a zero. We can move that one in. So I'd like to move approval of that one. Director Mack, Director Ramsden, second. Any opposed? Motion carries. I would suggest we wait museum, library. The cemetery, what was the increase there? Was
36.
36. Do we want to just wait on that one as well? See what
I would move that. 3,600, that's a pretty small budget. And I mean, they've done well, as you know, a huge amount of work there. So now they have to maintain that, even if it's only mowing the lawns. So I would recommend we approve that.
Okay, seconder. Kennan, any discussion? Any opposed? Motion carries. Trails and recreation is a big one. I would suggest we wait on that one. Is there anything else you're looking for from the committee, Mr. France, at this point, looking ahead to the next budget session?
Nothing more. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Before we close up, I have a question. There's a letter from a working group with regards to management of Gainsleigh Park. I thought we would make this agenda. Should I include this as a late business item? I just want to know how it gets accepted or how it gets discussed.
Yeah, it can go under a decision on late business to add it at this point, because it wasn't received.
So I'm gonna make a motion to include a discussion on the Birkin Culture Recreation, I'm not sure exactly name of the group's correspondence to the committee. Second by any opposed, motion carries. So the late business on that is we did receive a letter asking for some conversation to be had around the maintenance and management of the park. Can I ask where this would go with under staff or how this gets looked at? I don't want to put you on the spot and I don't know.
I'm not sure. We can receive it as late business and refer it to staff to bring back to a future meeting with the information.
Okay, so I'll send that. I thought it was in staff sign already. I will send that on to you after the meeting and then we can have it added to our next meeting.
Do you want it to go through staff and staff to bring back a report to inform it?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So if we can make a motion.
Okay, motion to include, let me just get the right. So a motion to include the letter from the Birkin Recreation and Cultural Society to be referred to staff and brought back to the next PVUS meeting by Director Mack, seconded by Director Kennett. Any discussion? Any opposed? Motion carries. And I'll send that on to you. Thanks very much. Director's notice of motion. Motion to adjourn. Director Mack, seconded by Director Ramsden.